Hello. Those of us who go to church at all this week are likely to sing at some point "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross." It's a hymn by Isaac Watts, written and published in 1707, and it's a hymn remembering the love that God shows through the death of Christ. Isaac Watts brought a new emphasis to hymn writing. Previously, hymns had been based almost entirely on Old Testament texts, particularly the Psalms, but the Psalms hardly mention God's love at all. And in bringing in New Testament texts and in using even more radically poetry of his own, he was able to bring into the hymns that were sung by his congregations an emphasis on God's love and God's care. See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. A stanza from the hymn I mentioned, and I think this knowledge, this experience of God's love, and the desire to emphasise it in the hymns came partly from his own experience, because he was a very sickly child and an adult who enjoyed poor health all his life, both physical and mental. He had a very strange illness. It seems to have made his skin very thin. His head was slightly oversized, apparently, and he was only 5 foot tall. Not a handsome person by any means, and struggling with the restrictions that his human body created for him, but aware also of a deep and divine love that surrounded him and inspired his hymns. But I think the love that he spoke about from God must also have been inspired by the love that he'd experienced as a human being, because when it became clear that he could no longer maintain a full-time ministry, the lady of the manor in which he was in which his church was placed, took him into her care, and eventually took him away to her country house in Hertfordshire, where he lived for the greater part of his life with Lady Abney and her daughter Elizabeth. And it was clearly their care for him, their support of him, their encouragement of him, their looking after his health needs, that enabled him to write his hymns, but it also enabled him to experience love, to know what being really cared for was. And I think for us too, as we remember God's love, particularly this week, we can also be aware of the way that is channeled through the people who care for us. And if we're fortunate enough to have people who think about us, who care about us, who want the best for us, who try and work out what our needs are and meet them, if we're fortunate enough to be loved in that kind of way, then let's celebrate the fact that they are communicating in that very human way a divine love.